Hey everybody, Brandon Jones here. I got Michael Huber.
Hello.
I got Brad Ellis.
Hi.
Who are good at action games. You guys are good at action
thanks,
games.
dude.
You guys
Thanks.
are talented
Thank you.
gamers.
Thank you.
So I'm sure you just breezed right through this, but the story elements of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order might have hit you a little hard. You might have had a pause here and there to soak up this story in between episodes 3 and 4. I am so excited to talk about spoilers, to get into the story from this game. But if you haven't played Jedi Fallen Order, and if you care about spoilers, I advise you, please do not watch this video, because the spoilers are about to start. By the right of the Council, by the will of the Force, spoilers start right now.
Spoiler mode, final warning, spoiler mode activated.
It's worth noting right off the top that Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order has really good music. None of it's jazz, though.
Right.
So if you hear kind of a jazzy, like a swing to this conversation, that's just our lovely neighbors just having a jazzy old time.
Yeah.
But I like it. I want this to be a mellow mood.
Just picture we're in a
for the spoiler
cantina
mode.
or something.
Yeah.
Yep.
You reviewed
Yes,
Jedi Fallen
I did.
Order, Brad Ellis,
I did.
but I am stepping in, dominating the spoiler
Please
mode
do.
to host this.
Please do.
Because I think I got 30 minutes into this game, and I was like, okay, I brought up a Google Doc, and I was like, I got to start writing some of this down, because I think that's one thing that I really enjoyed about this game is it references a lot of stuff, but it doesn't like slap you with it.
No.
You know, so
Yeah.
I'm curious what you picked up. I'm curious what you have to say about the stuff that I picked up. If some of these things are indeed references, or if what we can expect out of this story. I'm curious to go back and play this game at a later date.
Yeah.
Possibly at a lower difficulty setting. Maybe we should start there though, Hubert, because I shocked you
Yeah.
with some news before we started.
I was like, oh, Jones, did you play it? It wasn't a slight or anything.
No, of
it wasn't
course.
like, I was like, hey, Jones, did you just play on normal?
I
Just
play
curious?
everything on
Yeah.
normal. Creator's intent.
Yeah.
I play everything. I'm just like, why beat myself up? Also because there's a lot of games to play, man.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so like
get
I don't
through
want to
it.
get stuck on something.
But the reason I asked and I was so curious was because the combat in this game is so cool and good.
Very cool.
I dub this game Friendly Souls.
yeah.
Because it has
Souls.
so
Oh, yeah,
many,
yeah.
it has so
yeah.
many Souls-like elements, but in the friendliest,
Yeah.
easiest way possible. That and it never gets in the way of the story.
I just heard too many people say, Jedi Master, just up it. Just one.
Yeah.
Just boop. Just
Yeah.
pop it up to number 3. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And the hard part is, it was so great because we can get into spoilers. With that last fight, I made it through everything.
Dude, that fight.
The bat knocked me around a couple
Oh,
times.
sure, the bat,
and then
yeah.
I downloaded it. I got its number and I was able to get through that. I love there's a lot of not full health transitions. Like you don't have to drop everyone's health to 0.
Yeah.
A lot of fights end when it's so that health is really indicative of like life and death. When that health bar is gone, they're dead. And so that was fascinating that some of those things were like, okay, you've injured me a lot, I'm out of here. But that last one, like, because that door opens up and she's just waiting there, and I'm
Brutal
like,
fight. Yeah.
like I was sighing to
Oh,
myself.
with like the
and
torture chair behind her,
The
right?
Yeah,
final
yeah.
fight was a
dude, that
really
was
tough
sick.
fight. That took me like 10 times, Jones.
because she
Straight up.
does it's the grapple
Yeah.
into like the with the knee and then throws you on the
Yeah.
ground that takes up like 70% of your health. And it's tough because there were 4 or 5 skills that I hadn't bought yet, but the one I was so excited about was every time you use a stim you get all your force back.
Oh, I got that immediately.
And that made like,
Yeah.
especially with the force pull to stab, that
Yeah.
made like a lot of those points like fun. And easy, because compared to Souls or when I played Bloodborne, like you walk into a room with 3 dudes, it's like, this is not going to be
Yeah,
easy,
heads
man.
up.
You're going to have to. With 2, you can kind of juggle, but 3, that one boss in Bloodborne with the 3 guys was my favorite boss in that entire game.
Oh,
Because
yeah,
that was
the
so
Shadows of Yharnam.
fun to strategize. Like that would really felt like every time I lost, that was my fault. I can manage this. I can get good at it. Whereas just like, get over here, stab you. But I mean, now that we're in the realm of the ending, I think that's like the nice payoff to talk about with spoiler mode is we can just jump straight to the end
we
of this
always
game.
do, I feel like, yeah.
Yeah. So interesting. I got to admit, I was pessimistic about this story because when they first announced it,
We both
I was
were.
like, okay, this
Yeah.
this protagonist, and I love you, Cal, but you're not the most exciting protagonist in the world. It's kind of Luke revisited. It's
Sure, yeah.
It's Ezra revisited from
I was
Rebels.
just, I was more like, dude, another Jedi on the run
the young,
thing.
scrappy engineer
Yeah.
kid who suddenly discovers he has the Force and is trying to figure out what that means. I've read expanded novels of this
Sure,
guy.
yeah.
That wasn't that original, but oh boy, like they really hit on a lot of things that to me made me realize why I love Star Wars, made me realize why Jedi can be so impactful, why the Force can be such an impactful thing, and especially getting into the end, introducing this new environment. let's talk about Trilla. What did you think about?
Can I really quickly talk about the reason I loved the character so much, though, is
Sure.
right in the beginning, Jones, when he has the decision to save his friend or not by using the Force. He knows the consequences and he knows the stakes for doing that.
Yeah.
And he does it anyway, and the friend still pays the price. I think you kind of know what's going to happen. Like, we telegraphed this opening months ago. We were like, okay, he's going to have to use the Force to save his person. Then we were going to...
Yeah.
But it still hits so hard.
He kind of knows it too.
Yeah.
When he steps out and is like, you know what? If I'm about to die, let me just give a nice F you to the Empire because I've been here much longer than you have, Cal. And I love when he says, like, I used to be... He's not an engineer. He's like, I used to build things. You know, I used to be like creative with my skills, and now I'm just a scrapper, man. And that's
Really
what you
good
did.
intro.
That's what you turned this galaxy into. You turned us all into, you know, people who are not able to maximize their potential. And I didn't notice it until because a lot of these cutscenes I'm watching the second time because I cut your review. I didn't notice she stabs him with one side of the saber and then pops the other one out to block Cal.
Yeah.
Oof.
Badass.
Brutal. But Trilla, such a fascinating character. I admittedly, when she was first revealed, I was like, oh, okay. It's a bummer that it's like the one other person that they've talked about as a surprise.
Yeah.
But I just thought she was just fascinating. I thought she did a good... it's like in episode 3 when Anakin talks about the dark side. I get what he's saying, and I like, you know, the path that he goes on. It's just Hayden didn't do a great performance based on not a super solid script, and so it just doesn't hit as home. I actually, one of my favorite Anakin moments in the prequels is in arguably one of the worst, most embarrassing sequences. When he goes to Naboo and it's just like woo, and they're hanging out in the flowers. But they have this great conversation where Anakin's like, you know, I don't understand. You have all these issues with these people. Why don't you just tell them what to do? And she's like, Anakin, that's not how it works. And he's like, yeah, I don't get that. Like, as someone who's as powerful as I am, I don't understand why you can't just stop. You know, why you can't just episode 4, you know, where he's just like, yeah, that's just a force. And he's like, shut up. You know, like, oh, you can't breathe anymore. Shut up. Like, that's Vader. And so it was interesting the way, you know, that, Deborah Wilson, whose character's name is escaping me right now, but like the way she struggles with the dark side, how that's kind of in her the whole time. Seer, and how Trilla, you know, struggles with the dark side, how it's not just a real black and white, you know, conversation.
I mean, you see that throughout the movies too. Yeah,
Yeah.
like they're two sides of the same coin. I would say, the light and the dark, kind of like you get pulled to each side depending on the situation you're in.
That Trilla's not like redeemed, but you can kind of see
the light
it.
is
you
still
can
there.
Kind of see her.
It was really nuanced.
Want to leave it behind, but
It was really nuanced, and I cared as the game went on, which I think I take for granted sometimes in games. It's like we make up our minds pretty quickly about characters sometimes, and it's like, okay, and especially Star Wars is with all these predetermined expectations, and it's like we already know the beats that we're gonna hit. You know, using the Force, the disgraced master, and the like. All these things have happened, but because the characters' performances were so on point and emotional, I bought in and I believed it. And her, just the way she approaches you in combat. Also, they give a line about her liking to, like in her little biography or whatever. It's like, she likes playing with her victims before she ends up killing them. But it still felt like she wasn't really like torturing you. She was more like testing you. I just felt so much conflict.
You're a Jedi.
Yeah.
Well, it's like they gave a lot of time to showing. Like, they actually gave a lot of story to her. Like, you get that cutscene of it's like her first-person perspective of her getting left behind, like her getting tortured.
Yeah.
So they give you some kind of understanding
Seer
where
with
she's
the
coming
little
from.
Rhodian kid. Like,
Yeah.
what's gonna happen? Like,
Brutal, dude.
Yeah.
But just my favorite Trilla moment. I don't know why I love it so much, but there's such a great villain moment. I love you open the door and boom, there she is. She's like, Cal Kestis. Like, yes, I know who you are. I know who your master was. I know everything about you now. And that's like a fear going through this game of them being found out, their plans being found out, you know, Cal's power being found out, the ship, their location, what they're planning to do, the location of these artifacts in the temples that house them. And when she opens up this door and she like intentionally turns her back to Cal and is kind of like, oh yeah, I mean, you could just run up and attack me if you wanted, but I would sense it. And she's just talking to herself, and Cal's just like, all right. And he pulls out his lightsaber and she goes, outstanding. Yeah. And then just spins around and just starts fighting. You're like,
dude.
It's like some shades of Palpatine right
Yeah.
there, dude.
And just the doubt, like that's what she really wants to instill in Cal. Is like, I know you
The
doubt.
fear.
I know you doubt your power. I know you doubt the actual viability of being able to pull off this plan. And I doubted it too. I think that was kind of one of the things that kind of took the wind out of the sails of the story a little bit when it first started. Is it's like, let's rebuild the Jedi Order, and it's like, cool. Well, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like this is obviously going to take a sour turn, and like even if it all goes bad and everybody dies, is that going to be predictable? Is that going to be a satisfying ending? And I still kind of dug it. I mean, the Cal makes a tough decision at the end.
I like that they show he has the vision of what will happen if he gets the names and starts trying to
you
rebuild
see
the
all
Jedi
these dots
Order.
floating around, and he just kind of looks at, he sees himself and all of these Jedi, and he's like, yeah,
And he's like seeing what's going to happen if he does this. They're all going to die, pretty much.
And you think back to his master, like, ooh, such a powerful moment, where the last thing he says, like, trust in the Force. So that's what he does. He's like, okay, yeah. I am more powerful than I was before. I am great as a Jedi. Jedi are capable of amazing things. We are better together. We're stronger together. But ultimately, I have to trust in the Force that it's going to work out. And it does. Yeah. Well, we haven't seen episode 9 yet. So we got to know, really, how it's all going to end. But, and then Vader comes along and just messes the whole damn thing up.
It makes, so I always
my eyebrows did pop up when I'm like, what's that sound? Oh,
Yeah.
God.
So
But
I always
I
get
don't know
really
if I needed
worried
that.
about that kind of stuff and them just shoehorning characters into games where I'm just like, for the sake of them to be in it. But for where it was in the game, in the exact location they're at, it made sense to me that Vader would be there.
It made sense that he was there, but like, why did he show up? Surely that alarm went off. Was he just watching all of this happen?
You just probably that's like, so
Gotta
you
wait
see
for the
those-
DLC.
Kind of makes sense.
You see the place underwater, and it's like you're in like a smaller section of it on the side. And there's like a huge thing in the background, so he could have come through the middle or whatever where he was.
Or it is kind of creepy to think of him watching the
He
two of you
could,
fight.
yeah.
And
could.
that's
Testing
why
Trilla.
I think he takes down Trilla, is because he's like, you failed.
You
yeah, he
failed.
failed. That's
Giving her a shot.
The Sith way, dude.
Yeah, she
Even though she's not
wanted.
Sith.
She probably wanted him to kill Cal there.
And when
'Cause then
Trilla
she'd be
yells,
full on.
avenge us, she's saying that to Vader.
No, she's saying it to
you.
Yeah, you.
You think?
Yeah.
Avenge the Jedi.
Yeah, she's looking
dude.
right in your eyes, dude.
Yeah.
That's like her
Yeah.
turning point right before death.
Cool.
Yeah.
I thought because you take out the other Inquisitors
But
as well.
that's
so
cool.
I thought that might have
'cause
her been
you
saying
get
to
that
Vader,
idea, but me and Huber had the other
avenge
idea.
the Inquisitors.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I liked it. I don't think Trilla's journey was so predictable.
No.
It was interesting, and I don't think you got enough of her. Like when she takes over Seer's communication, and she's like, "You forgot, Seer trained me. I know everything that she
Yeah.
does." I was like, "Oh man, I'm just gonna be in my ear the whole rest of the game."
Nope.
And I liked it. Nope, that just
Yeah.
has its
Because
little
yeah,
part.
and Cal is like, they're monitoring our calls, so maybe we should not use
Even
it
though
anymore.
at the end of that
Yeah.
in the end of that temple that you get to, he like discovers it, and he's like, "So BD1, here's what we need to do next." He's like, "Cal, stop. Cal, shut up. She's listening to you. Shut up." I really dug her. I really dug
she's
her
great. She was
character. I like Seer's relationship with that. Even when Seer at the beginning is like, "Well, have I got a past?" I was like, "Here we go," and it still hit me. Like it was funny. Like Amanda kept checking in. She's like, "Still good?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's still like."
Yeah, well, it's because they take their
still-
time telling
Yeah.
it. It's like it's spread out through a long part of the game. It's not just all like. And
And
you
I
fight her
think-
like 3 times in this game.
Yeah.
And she's like always talking to you about stuff. Did you like the Phantom Menace little nod, Hero, when you got stuck behind like the wall?
Yeah, dude, I immediately thought of that. Immediately.
Yeah.
I mean,
I wanted to like Darth Maul like hit it with
Yeah.
you know how he like protects it.
Yeah.
She does.
She
gives
did?
It, yeah, she gives a little tap.
Oh, even miss. I was probably just freaking out too much.
That's right when it happens. And again, it's a amazing BD1 moment. BD1 saving your ass again and again.
It's awesome.
But we can talk. Yeah, I kind of
Really-
want
really quickly
I
with
want to end
Vader.
on the references because I noted like a lot of nods.
Quickly with
That were
Vader,
subtle, you know?
like Brad was saying, just anytime Vader shows up now, it does feel forced and cheap, and I'm just like, rolling my eyes. Does Vader always have to show up? But because it was so brief, and I think the main reason why I loved it so much, one, because he kicks your ass.
Mm-hmm.
Two, because when you're running and if you turn around to try to attack him, tell me you did this.
Oh no, I ran like a crazy person.
Dude.
I always let Vader kill me at least
Yeah.
once.
If you try to run back, because I'm like, dude, let me fight Vader. You try to run back, he gives you the most vicious force choke grip. Like the base, dude, my whole apartment. It was like, he like slams you down on the ground. Like, I think when you died, it just says like, run. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I think because, again, when you beat the game, you can never replay that part. You have to beat the entire game again
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
redo
Can't
that.
go
So
back.
I think that helped
Yeah.
it also
never has a
be more
health meter.
meaningful.
Nope.
Yeah.
You know, it's clearly something that they established. Like he is on another level.
And the water part when he's holding the water.
Yeah.
When all the
yeah.
water floods in and you're getting far away and he's just like.
there are two. Okay, I'm gonna be a pessimist for 2 seconds. I'm not gonna dwell on this. I just have to get this off my chest.
Sure.
It has that Terminator 2 a little bit. Where you get in the elevator and like click, click, click. And you look over and he's just standing there. He's like, "What's up?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
you got me, bro." Like, force grab the holocaust. You're probably like, "Oh, come on." And it's like canon now that Vader's rage makes him fail. Like it's now after Rogue One with the plans losing
Yeah.
it, and now it's like kind of what Vader's known for, just being like, "Oh, they got away," you know, like
Yeah.
So I mean, it's frustrating for me, you know, but and just to like the all the pieces of that base just falling apart and him, you know, throwing them
awesome.
at all of you. And at the end of the day, it really wasn't that huge of a deal. Like, obviously, he wanted to go out and kill all of those kids, but like, because that's what he does. But it still felt like maybe he's just doesn't think that much of you. Maybe he's just like, oh, come on.
Yeah,
like,
taking you
after
for
all the
granted.
Jedi I've killed.
Hubris.
Yeah, I
'cause
have a feeling,
And the
yes.
other thing, too, he knows Yoda's out there. He knows Obi-Wan's out there. He's like, I got bigger fish to fry.
Because isn't hubris always the downfall of the dark side? Like every time they're just overconfident
Your
and
overconfidence
they get,
is your weakness.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like every time.
And it was just, I mean, I like that he only showed up at the end. I like that they truly demonstrated just like how much of a
power.
badass he was.
Yeah.
You read his description, you read the plot thing, and it's like, yeah, Vader showed up and there was nothing anybody can do about that. And I love the difference in, I loved the moments that would demonstrate Seer's connection to these other things, because like even though I think the span of time between episode 3 and 4 is like, just don't do too much there, you know, don't show that like, oh, there's tons of Jedi. It's like, well, then that makes Order 66 not as potent. It's like there need to be a very small group of these people left, otherwise I think it takes away a lot of the dramatic tension. But it was still fascinating having Seer talk about that and having Seer be like, yeah, I was still there, you didn't see me in the prequels because there was a lot of Jedi walking around.
Thousands.
I was doing things on other planets and stuff like that. And so that moment really hit for me where like Seer's like, oh shit, when he shows up, and then Cal's like, this doesn't look good. She's like, no.
No,
This
they're
isn't-
like, it's him.
A nuclear
This isn't
bomb
good.
walking
It's
towards you.
yeah, dude, you need to run. Yeah. That even someone like Cal, who was as deeply affected by the Purge, has no idea who Vader is.
Yeah,
you
he's
know,
never
doesn't
met him,
because
yeah.
he's been stuck on this, you know, backwater world, you know, pretending he doesn't exist. So yeah, I had a little bit of a love-hate relationship with that, but I was still I'm running on that bridge like,
Yeah.
you know, like when he just flicks Seer off the bridge, I was like, oh, I was like, oh, that's probably wasn't it, but who knows, you know, like especially at the end. If you're Respawn, like how gratifying would it be to be like, yeah, she's dead, dude. Sorry. You know, it's like Vader, man.
And just like immediately so much cred for Cal, because I'm like, just took a swing at Vader.
Yeah.
Just took a swing at
'Cause
Vader.
he
No
doesn't
big
know
deal.
who he
Like,
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Took a stab at him.
Yeah. And just, I think they did, we're talking about, we're feeling Half-Life right now. I felt like it had a couple really great gravity gun Half-Life moments where specifically on Ilum, when you get your lightsaber back and when you get into that base where the game's just like, go. You're like, yes. You open up a door and those two guys are training and you're like, come here, man. Another door opens up. You're just like, like, I have so many powers now.
Yeah.
You know, and you can really, and I think that was an interesting balance. Like you described it as, you know, easy souls.
Friendly
and
souls.
Friendly souls.
Friendly
souls. Because I've seen some people on Twitter that are like, I think this is more difficult than some of the Souls games that I've played. And I think you just have to find the rhythm in a lot of these games.
They're
like,
not the same. They play different.
Sure.
You have to get used to them.
But I
Just getting your XP back is like the most friendly
just
thing.
hitting
Just
someone.
by hitting
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
Well,
So
and,
friendly.
and the force pull. I mean, you can really kind of, you know, just remove people from the equation very easily. The fact that projectiles, you can actually deflect them back. You know, it's like there's a lot of stuff that. What's the infamous bridge? I think it's like a Demon Souls or something, where dudes are just throwing stuff at you like the whole time, and you have to
many.
walk across like a. You're like, oh, you got to be more
that's
specific.
in Orlando. Yeah.
But I love the sneaky guys behind the door. I think that was like the biggest thing for me is you walk through a doorway and some guy like jumps out.
Yeah.
You've played a From Software game before. But I I think you do get super powerful, and you definitely I did feel a little overpowered for some sequences, but at the same time, like, how great is it to like turn a corner and there's some stormtrooper who's just like, I think he's over here somewhere, and you're like,
But still, if you let your guard down, you're a Jedi.
sure.
You're not Superman. Like, you can get taken out. So I love, I always love the threat of danger, Jones, and the idea that if I let my guard down, these stormtroopers are going to kill me.
Yeah.
It's like a weird balance of your force being so overpowered. Is like, he's a Padawan technically, or he was. He's not a Jedi Knight until later on. But it's like, you want to have fun with the Force kind of thing like that. When I appreciated that they slowly rolled out the powers.
Yeah.
And you're getting stuff through almost the entire game.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Now that we're focused on it, the when they knock the ground out from under you and your saber flies out of your hand, which it impact is, I didn't even think about the connection now, but it's so much more impactful later because he loses his lightsaber and his master comes in like, you idiot.
Yeah.
That's a big in episode 2 shout out. And it's like, never ever let your lightsaber go. And just that, when he drops and goes to get it, and he would walk up to these blue things and be like, that's how you're gonna get powers. It's like the shouts in Skyrim. I gotta find these walls that yell at me, and then I'll get my new powers. And I like that they, changed that up. It's like you're bouncing around on Kashyyyk, and all of a sudden, you get these. It also factors into his ability to touch things and sense memories, and just particularly that one where he was like. Falling and trying to grab the saber, and for just this kind of the adrenaline to kick in, just this fight or flight moment for him to, in that moment, be like, oh, that's how you do force pull.
And talk about the best way ever to build the bond between apprentice and master, like these flashback moments where you get to see your master and he's teaching you.
Not even knowing what they're really building.
I specifically didn't let anyone else know except Jones about those, because I was like, that's when you really start to get to know Cal. Those are what he was going through, man.
Those segments, dude.
And little Cal, cool. Man.
Yeah, just him
That's
training.
That's what's fun about games. Just that you can take this actor and de-age him. Be like, do you have any photos of you when you were like
kid?
And like you see him and how heartbreaking that sequence is when he, the clone troopers. The guy gives him a high five.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, man?
Yeah.
It shows like. It's the same voice actor for the Clone Wars. Like,
yeah, it's brutal, man.
Same shit about them not shoving it in your face. Just a little. Yeah. Order 66 Palpatine, just right down here.
Well, there was one.
No big deal, no big drama. It's not like Order 66.
Yeah. There was one that was brutal where you could see this room, and then you finally go all the way around and then come back into the room, and there's a memory there. And this Jedi's like, I don't know where my Padawan is.
Yeah,
and the clone trooper's like, oh, really? He's like, okay, well, let's go find him.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay. She's like, I'm really worried. And he's like, I'm sure everything's fine.
Oh, wait, hold on. Call.
I'm getting a call from the Chancellor.
Yep. Loved that one, dude. Oh, what's the Supreme Chancellor calling for?
Yeah, brutal. And that
so heavy.
And that his master senses it right when it happens. That he's the guy behind him's like, oh, I got this message. And he's like, whoa.
Yeah, he feels
and
it.
And I love the line that he tells Cal, where Cal's like, what's going? He's like, I have no answers. Go. It's like, what a great way to be like, just there's no point. We could sit here and freak out about this, but that doesn't matter. And to me, that's the anti-Vader watching you get into an elevator. That like he's like, we have to move. Like there's no time to sit and dwell and have a crazy dramatic moment. That to me has so much more of an impact than this like. All of our Jedi friends have died now, and this is only up to you and me. Just the urgency. It shows an intelligence.
Yeah.
It shows kind of that the Force kind of helps you kick in and deal with emergencies like that.
Good call, Jones. That was a very powerful moment. Yeah, he said something along the lines of like, I don't have any answers.
So to
good.
me, I think like the amazing thing about this game, the thing that really surprised me was not so much the quote unquote story, it was the storytelling.
Yeah,
that's how having, like you say, this disgraced Jedi is not that surprising. Having a sassy droid, having a cocky pilot, like all of these things are Star Wars staples. It's just like
how it's done,
how they gave you those things, getting to Dathomir and having Grease be like, I'm okay, I'm all right, I got a Jedi with me, it's no big deal. Even just silly moments of like you see them eat. I was like, cool. You see him like drinking. You see like the kitchen where they like prepare food.
Cozy little shit. Those plants. Dude.
Yeah.
Love those plants.
And I think I'm missing 2 of those damn plants. I'm not gonna do it now. I think over the holidays maybe I'll like get back in there. I saw somebody, I think it was like Barrett from Kind of Funny, like posted like completing Zephos, just like, like when some of those when you zoom all the way out, just like huge, damn, like,
huge. Man.
How do I get down? I got stressed. I was trying to finish it at like 1 a.m, which if you have a 5-month-old is a dangerous time to have not slept. And I was trying to get out of Zepho and I couldn't. I was like, I couldn't fit because like there's no warping. I was like, how the hell do I get back to that elevator? I was like stressed out.
Totally.
and because I was like, I want to get one more stim, I want to get one more force power before I go back to that unlock the tomb and like finish this up. But let's talk about that crew. I mean, that ship. It definitely feels like you live there. Like I remember one time, I love that you have to manually step into the co-pilot seat to actually go to the planet. Because one time,
Can we talk about it really quick?
I realized the convertible sense of the roof. You can see through it, and I remember just going over and looking and seeing like, like the stars flying by.
Favorite Star Wars moment every single time.
Hyperdrive
every time. Lightspeed. Watch every time, dude. Those.
Yeah.
And then when you're just in Lightspeed and every time
awesome.
I'm just like,
But those were some of the best moments is them talking to each other, Grease learning something new about Seer that he didn't know, learning something about you. The conversations they had later in the game were super different from the conversations they had at the beginning.
Yeah.
I love you rescue that little like ferret dude.
Yeah,
and
he's just
then like
weird.
later
Yeah.
Grease is like, my food's going missing. Do you
Yeah.
notice that? He's like, I don't know what my food is anymore. Yeah. And I like at that point realized like, oh yeah, I haven't seen that little guy. Where is he? And I noticed
think
him
they
like
were
under the
talking
table.
about like hearing something in the ship at one point in my game.
But
then, of
just
course-
the taking off and landing, just that whole process just added such a believability because they like land in the same exact place every time. And there were a lot of glitchy moments, a lot of like textures that took a while, a lot of like weird animations and stuff. The only one that really got in my way specifically, there's like one scene where Seer was like, so Grease stepped outside for a little bit, and while he's gone, I want a chance to talk about the Night Sister that's joined our team. What do you think about her? The Night Sister was sitting right next to Seer, and Grease was right behind her.
That's funny,
And
dude.
I was like,
That's funny.
So there's a couple little
sure.
bits. They're a little clunky. Also, like you'd finish a cutscene and then be like, okay, so anyway, where'd you go? And like they're both outside now. It's like
that's
a
just
little
like
bit.
video gamey stuff to me.
But I mean, of course, like I'll take it,
Yeah,
for
of
all of
course.
the other moments, and especially like how good they were. Even just near the end of the game, having Grease be like, "Hey, you're all right, kid." I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I got him.
Yeah,
this
you got
guy
him,
who
dude.
just.
Scrumpy
I
guy.
love one of my favorite Grease moments.
Dude,
is he's like,
jailbreak.
he's like, Cal's like, yeah, I have flown ships before, but I want to like get good at a pilot. And Grease is like, oh, you should, you should fly. He's like, yeah, you should fly a ship because it's nothing like it. And he's like, cool. Well, I look forward to flying the ship one day. He's like, oh, not my ship.
Yeah.
Just get your own ship,
Yeah.
buddy. Like,
Yeah.
Really, really good. I'm
Gambling
sure there were a
debts.
bunch of those. Yeah, I'm sure there were a bunch of those I skipped. Oh, how great.
Gambling debts.
Talk about Dark Souls, that moment. Getting grabbed by that robot.
Oh, I was like,
yeah,
waking
bounty
up in
hunter.
prison.
Bloodborne moment
Yeah.
right there.
Totally.
That was awesome. Yeah. I was like, bounty hunters, good.
Yes, dude, I was a little bummed that all the bounty hunters ended up being the same archetype. It was like the one dude with the shield and the robot.
There's
Yeah.
the flying one too. Those like the flying guys.
the flying
Yeah.
guy, yep.
Yeah.
Could have gone
They
just
had the
for,
flamethrowers too.
Yeah, just like visually, I guess.
Oh, sure.
I wanted just a little more bounty hunter variety, but those
It's just when you
fights-
get the whiff that you're like, oh, it's bonus stuff. Okay,
They were like-
this wasn't the centerpiece. This wasn't the main ticket event from this area. It's like if you go back, ta-da! It's like,
Yeah, I appreciated that.
And I like that they weren't there sometimes. Like I would go in and they'd show up and then kick my ass and then I'd reload and gone. And I'm like, oh damn, I want a rematch.
I didn't know that.
Damn, I think most of the time they'll show up in another area or come back to that spot later. And actually, while we're talking about that, I love the how Kashyyyk changes. I love how Zepho changes. I love that you go back to Zepho and there's that ATSD crashed.
This is something I briefly talked with about Brad Jones, and I cannot for the life of me put it into words. But there was just something, my biggest and kind of my only criticism about the story itself really has to do with the worlds and how artificial they all feel and how constructed they all feel. I didn't feel like I was going to these big mysterious planets. I felt like I was going to a video game level.
Totally.
I saw through it all, and that's kind of my big criticism. Did you say totally? Did you feel the same way?
Yeah,
or
yeah,
okay.
definitely. One thing that I think worked in its favor was I hate it in games where they say, we got to go to this thing that nobody's ever been to before, and it's like right there. You can see it, and I really felt that these temples were way out of the way. That like a Wookiee's not just going to climb up that big ass tree. Like that's something only a Jedi can do. Even just wall running, it's like that's a tough thing. for people to do the double jump. Who the hell can just, get more, lift in the middle of the air? Like, so I like that they did demonstrate that. But in the case of Tarful that you visit on Kashyyyk, they're like, we're going to, come to this spot to meet him. It's like, what? I had to swing over a thing and get, it's like, and you're just in this random little platform here. I feel like they almost kind of make fun of that because in the very beginning, when you're just going through the tutorial, here's how platforming works, you go by a character and she's like, how'd you get here? And he's like, how do you get here? So like they are aware of it.
Here, to me, it's like a thing of they try to make it kind of believable, like where you are is like an Imperial base, everyone's gone. It's like the weird architecture like that, but at the same time, if it's like super realistic, it might not be that interesting to explore.
Totally.
And that was kind of like, I feel like exploration was much more of a focus compared to be like, this is like a really lived in space kind of thing like that.
That reminds me of
it definitely. It factors into just the whole game design the whole way down and just how focused the levels are. So yeah, Brad, I agree with you. If it was trying to be more lived in and more realistic, the exploration and the combat may have suffered for it.
Yeah.
So
and just the world, like I think back on my favorite Star Wars game, Knights of the Old Republic, Jedi Outcast. The worlds aren't fantastic. That's not why you're there. It's not really worth the ticket price. The fact that these hallways from KOTOR or there's these giant arenas from some of like the end of Jedi Knight's definitely iconic. You show me that room, it's like Jedi Knight. I know that. But
cutting the R2 units in half was dopamine.
Yeah, satisfying.
They just like
who's fun to cut in half is the security droids from Rogue One. The
K2SOs.
Yeah. Just right down the middle.
I hack them all though. You're on my team now.
Yeah.
I never hacked anything. I didn't know how to do it.
So with those guys,
I got the ability in the skill tree, but there was no prompt or anything. And I never really looked it up.
You had to bring them to you when they're low in health, and the K2SO ones, you have to bring them down quite low.
Yeah.
Then you could you push down on like the D-pad.
It's like the BD1 button.
Yeah.
We'll get to BD1. But another thing that I think the story did really well was, as I mentioned, the narrative would change. Kashyyyk was heartbreaking that you come back and you're like, yay, we won. And then later it's like, Trilla showed up and wiped everybody out.
Yeah.
You're like, oh no.
Yeah.
And
Saul's out of there.
And you hear like them separate and one person, I'm staying. We need to fight this. And Saul's like, obviously when you meet his character in Rogue One, he's like, I've done so many other things. There are other fights that we need to fight. You kind of get that a sense of his speech that he makes, which is one of the only like triumphant moments in that game where he's like, a victory, haha, like Jedi are great. But even just the dialogue from stormtroopers and stuff when like you eliminate everybody but one person and he's like, all right, so it's just me, let's do this. When you overhear troopers talking in another room, or how that dialogue would change. I remember going back to Zepho and going like the long way around where you're like stopping those turbines and jumping over them, and then you get back into this little like village where you go into each of those towns, and like immediately when I walk in, they're talking about what's happened since I last came to Zepho, and it's like, cool. Like stormtroopers don't have a lot of interesting things to say in the movies,
right?
And it's cool that they really,
they're usually just
really utilize them. If it's like, hey, if everybody's gonna sound the same, kinda, it's neat to utilize that and have the storytelling through that, especially because you're just spending so much of this fighting people. It's neat to have those people say interesting things. Even like the guy from the arena was like kind of a fun character that showed up.
Oh, dude, he's gonna be back 100%. That guy.
Yeah, before I'm sure you guys are gonna get into it so much, but anytime there was something I didn't know, I basically was just like, oh, Clone Wars are Rebels. Oh, Clone Wars are Rebels. So I assumed this guy was some big Rebels character, but I guess
I don't remember him from.
I haven't done seasons 2 or 3 of Rebels.
Okay.
I'm all of Clone Wars.
I'm on 2 Rebels, and
I was
don't
like, this
recognize
guy
him.
screams Rebels, dude.
It could have been like Hondo. Like that kind of could have made sense.
But you kind of.
But he's kind of like.
I think Disney wants you to like Hondo.
Yeah,
I think Hondo,
especially now that he's like on the ride or whatever.
I don't think you want to go to this, Galaxy's Edge
Hondo,
and be like,
dude.
that son of a.
You would love Hondo.
Yeah, Hondo's hilarious.
It's awesome.
They're still on Disney Plus now?
Yeah.
Oh
This
yeah,
game-
Rebels. No, yeah.
Dude, if there's one thing Fallen Order made me itch for, man, it's Clone Wars and Rebels. Like, holy moly.
Well, it just I got like misty-eyed, man, at some points. Like just the beginning. I know this is off topic because I want to move on to BD1 because it's probably my favorite thing about the entire game. But this moment early on when he's like, oh, look at this starfighter, and Cal's like, oh, damn it. He's just like, just seeing it's like, I don't need to see this, man.
Yeah, the Jedi starfighter.
Like I've cut up so many ships. It's like, it's brutal cutting up these Republic ships, but like, man, I imagine myself flying one of those, and like the R2 droid is it's broken. They're like, God. And his friends like, wow, this has been here for what, 4 years? And he's like, 5.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, I thought the Jedi were probably good. I never believed that. And he just goes up and just like sees the logo. And it's like, sees the Jedi symbol. And it's like,
let me bring up my biggest chills moment before we get to BD1 is when he gets knighted. When she knights him.
I wasn't prepared, man.
That was like I just got chills thinking about it, dude.
Me too.
She's like, Neil.
Especially too, because she's like, okay, I'm about to do this. Turns the lightsaber on and then like looks at it for a second. It's like, and then like knights him. The fact that you managed to disarm Trilla and you're like, hi, I have your lightsaber. Like you can't stop it. There's just so much rage, so much anger. That's where she gets her power from. Are those memories? Like she constantly is pissed, constantly reliving those things.
I was happy they kept the cast
a sad
small.
story if you care.
For a while, it bothered me. I was like, yo, let's get some more people on the ship, liven things up a bit. But I think because it was like 3 people plus BD1, and then obviously Marin was her name, joins the party.
Night sister.
She joins the party later on. But like, I think keeping it for the vast majority of this game between 3 people plus BD1 was really, really smart, and every character was memorable and strong.
And Night Sisters were Clone Wars in all caps.
Knew that.
Like, Night
knew
Sisters
that.
were
they were talking about how they got wiped out and stuff, and it's like, we know that.
Yeah, I knew that. I didn't even need to watch Clone Wars to even know that.
But just these Darth Maul dudes showing up. You're like, yep.
The Night Brothers,
These guys are super
the magic dude.
Super angry.
The necromancy and all that stuff. Yeah.
But she was an interesting character, and I thought she was done well from like a video game standpoint because she can teleport wherever the hell she wants. You get a vibe she's watching you the entire time, and Cal kind of comments on that. He like senses her when she shows up, and like she leaves, and he's like, yeah, that's right, run away, and she's like, I'll be watching, and he's like, oh god, shows up. I
forgot about that guy, dude, the double blade guy,
old Jedi. Yeah, dude, when you're going through the planet and you see his like ship. If like you get the kind of like echoes to get notes about it. His ship is crashed there.
Oh, dude, I missed that.
And he's like his audio log is like, and he's been there for a while.
Oh yeah,
like since like 5 years since the Order. It's like, oh, this guy was a Jedi. This is what happened to him. This is how he got here.
But it's a Long John Silver, Captain Flint vibe, dude. I got black
But it's a fascinating. I think one of the things that is cool about having all these different Jedi and all these different characters that go through all these different journeys. Kylo, like why he to me is such a fascinating character is because like he doesn't know what the hell to do because he has so many. There's so many examples. There's so many dark side, masters and apprentices. There's so many Jedi that he can learn from that, have tried to pass on their knowledge that he knows he's got to follow his own path, but he doesn't know what the hell that is. And so it's fascinating to think of these 2 characters, to think of Cal and question mark. I should have written the cast name down. Sorry. That both escaped the purge, both crashed on a planet, were both stuck on that planet, but he was stuck on a planet that was very was filled with pain and power and greed, and Cal was just stuck with a bunch of broken ships
in a chop shop.
And so Cal like never really had an opportunity to seek more power or to. He had exactly the opposite. He had to kind of do what Seer did, which is just like, I'm not a Jedi anymore, and it's interesting to think of if Cal had landed on Dathomir, what would have happened? You know. And so it's interesting to think of the fact that these characters always have a choice. That Rey's got a choice, Kylo's got a choice, Luke's got a choice. All of these, Yoda had a choice. That's I think of how profound that is that Yoda just walks away from Sidious at the end of 3. He's just like, I'm out, and everybody's like, why did he run away? It's like because he's scared. Think about that. Think how powerful he is. And he's like,
couldn't be him.
I screwed up. How mad he is that he's like, how did we not see this?
So depressing.
There's a lot of disappointment with these characters.
Defeated Yoda just like flying away in the ship in 3 is so sad.
It's depressing.
Marin I was surprised Marin jumped on board. That was an interesting character.
I was like, oh, this is a villain we'll see in another game or something.
Totally. They didn't too much of it. A little playful. You get the hug. She likes joking around with Grease.
Yeah.
Super good.
But
totally ready for if they do a sequel with like a couple months later, a year later, have her just be like fully part of the crew by the time we check back in.
Wears different clothes.
The next time we come back in,
running the place.
It's gonna be awesome.
We a couple other things I want to talk about. hands down the best character in this video game is BD1. I mean, just like,
yeah.
oh my god.
When you get his whole revelation, like why he's here doing what he's doing.
When I first saw him, I fell in love. I want his plushie, damn it. I want the BD1 backpack so bad.
BD1 or the Baby Yoda?
BD1, man.
Over
the Baby
Baby
Yoda's
Yoda?
fine. Baby Yoda's fine.
We just haven't had much time with Baby Yoda yet.
Yeah, we don't know what's going on with him.
Okay.
That's a different spoiler mode. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. People in the UK are like, damn it. Because they don't get that till March.
That's an
but
unblockable spoiler. That's unblockable.
It's tough. Yeah, it's pretty much been a hashtag for the last
like
2 weeks straight. But
Nice going, Disney.
yeah, thanks a lot. But not only was I like so charmed by him for so many reasons, hey, you know a joke, BD1?
Yeah.
Okay, and what? Good one, buddy. And you're like, yeah.
I think he was like, he said something one time. Cal's like, "Whoa, dude," or it's like something like that. You're
that's
like, "Whoa."
intense even
that was
for you.
intense. Yeah.
He's talking about somebody he doesn't like
Yeah.
or something, like some character that he doesn't thinks is creepy or something. I think it's the two lightsaber guy.
Oh, sure,
He makes
yeah.
some crack at him. He's like, oh man, harsh. One of the cutest things that, again, I'm rewatching a lot of these cutscenes because I cut the review that I didn't think about until I actually played it. But Cal wakes up out of meditation and then it's like, hey, and like looks down and like, oh, there's this weird droid. And BD1 goes boop boop. And Cal's like, I'm okay. My name's Cal. And I was like, oh, BD1 just asked if he was okay.
Yeah.
BD1 walks up
He's
and
a
sees
nice
him
droid.
meditating, and he wakes up. And BD1's like, "You okay?"
Yeah,
and he's
he's
like,
a
"Oh yeah, I'm
nice
fine."
droid.
And that's why, I think you can clearly tell, like Respawn had that moment where they were like, it's ever since the very first Star Wars film, when C-3PO would finish R2 sentences or say something that would make you understand or wonder what R2 had said to make C-3PO say that, and just playing with that and nailing it every single time, like having good jokes, having them have a bond, and to not only have that exist between this man and this machine, but like you were saying, by the end of it, to have this relevance between him and this old Jedi, like, whoa,
Yeah,
just
man.
so much more than I was expecting. It's interesting when BD1 first showed up. We can talk about references later, but when he first shows up, and BD1's like, "Yeah, I don't remember," and he's like, "You don't remember where you came from? Never met a forgetful droid before."
Yeah.
It's like, wah wah,
Wah.
and wipe his memory.
If Respawn kills BD1
No.
one day, I will.
No, I refuse.
Like,
I refuse to
No,
believe.
but I want to tap into that because it's like it's just a droid, right?
Yeah.
It's a machine. But like if a sequel comes and like BD1 just like
Oh, there was somebody. Somebody got a hold of him.
devastation.
Somebody grabbed him at one point, and I was
Yeah.
like, "No!" Like,
Yeah.
there was. I cannot
just
remember the
that
specifics.
level of emotional investment
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
have
droid.
already.
And I
for
liked
this
that-
droid companion.
It's like
And I
R2,
like
man.
that-
You're like,
yeah.
no.
And I like that they were both kind of on the same path, where they were both injured, and they
Yeah.
were slowly getting their abilities back. I like that they set that up very early on. That he's like, "Hey, BD1, that wasn't smart. You want to be more careful." But at the same time, like, that's a brave move, buddy.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. You did that. And how excited he was every time he runs up on a table and he's
Our
like,
chest.
"Hey, would you like to do this?" And he's like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
I loved when he runs towards things like that. I think that
Yeah, it gets off your
that's not
back.
in Souls. That I don't recall
No,
from any
Jones.
action adventure game. That was such an interesting
Jones, I'm really glad you
element
said
for
that.
him to
Let you know.
it almost kind of added this automatic enthusiasm to discovering new areas, because you'd open up a door and you would just run over to something and be like, "Oh yeah, what is it, dude?"
check this out.
And I like that the conversation evolved whenever you'd open a chest. And so by the end, he's done it so many times that Cal's like, "You just love to jump in there, don't you, buddy?"
Yeah.
He just really wants to see stuff.
Yeah.
I love even it happened a lot when there were the wires going up or down, where I'd walk by an edge just to look at it, and BD1 would just jump over the edge and be like, "Are we doing it?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "No."
Yeah.
It didn't feel like, the game is doing its thing, but that doesn't work for the story. Everything he did felt like something that BD1 would do, and it was sometimes I forgot he was there. I'd be in the middle of a boss fight, and you look at his shoulder, like he's hanging on the whole time,
and the sound of the stem is really satisfying.
the different skins, yeah.
BD1 searching the environment for things, I thought was a really excellent evolution of collectibles. I love this because so many games, I've been trained now to enter a room, go around the perimeter. Perimeter of a room, check all the doors and everything. Okay, check one scan of the center. Okay, nothing in here. Okay.
Yeah.
And just checking everything. And this was such an elegant way of being able to move through an environment while also picking up the most interesting bits.
And developing character.
And developing, yes. Just
what
so
a
well
just
done.
multiple wins across the board.
Yes.
And these powerful story moments, saving him, first introducing him, and you're the guy you were the thing I thought it was a Jedi, but you're the one that I'm supposed to meet. Him confiding him in a lot, him saving him from Trilla in that one moment, you being separated from him, going to the prison, and he's like, you're like, I'm gonna get in there, buddy. Opening up the door and having him that room, where you like go and you see all these droids from all these different eras, all all smashed up, and just this like, I'm glad to still have you with me, buddy. And just like how stoked he was every time he got a stim. He's just like, I never thought I'd be excited to see a box before, or a crate, I was just like. I think when we talked about this on Frame Trap, like BD1, there's a lot of things to appreciate about this game, but he was absolutely my favorite part. I just thought they did such a good job. It was to be so easy, as much as I love K2SO and he has such funny moments in Rogue One, as much as obviously R2 is like everything. Like, I just thought it would be so predictable, the stuff that they would do with BD1, and having a droid do new things in Star Wars, having showing that different relationship that they had.
Because I think of K2SO, he's like kind of like a sassy friend.
Yeah.
But BD1 kind of reminded me of like a puppy, just really excited to help you and do stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, man, I love puppies.
Definitely the loyalty. Them both, him going to Ilum and BD1 finally completing that final completing his memory loss, and the two kind of characters almost nearly the same time in the story realizing like we did it, we made it. I like that they actually said that with, he verbally says that out loud. I think it was on Kashyyyk when it happened, where he like lands after bouncing and then like lands on the platform and he's like, I did it, I'm back. He's like, I'm back to where I was before, and that you can kind of feel that in his character where he's like, but I'm so much older now and so much wiser, and I have these powers and I understand what it is to have these powers.
Journey. Went on a journey.
Yeah.
Total journey.
So I want to talk about the references, because that was one of the things, and just general notes of just kind of what I thought of the game in general.
Better watch Clone Wars.
But it helps. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
Does.
Also, if you watch Mandalorian, just get in, just search for the couple episodes, 'cause it's fascinating to to learn about that planet and all that stuff that that race went through. It was neat because I would notice, I was like, oh, cool, episode 5 reference. And I was like, oh, neat, episode 2 reference. And I'm like, did they reference everything? And they did, at least once. We talked about episode 1. I didn't even think about that one. We talked about episode 1 with that, the red barriers, which was also just a great, felt really good whenever you got on the other side of those and opened them up, and they would separate. And makes sense that it's not just like, from episode 1. It's like, it's a technology. Other people would use it. This is like a Trade Federation. No, it wasn't Trade Federation. It was
Empire.
where you are now.
Separate.
But in episode
Naboo.
1,
It
it's
was like a Naboo.
It's the palace, yeah.
Power cores.
But
thing
just,
in the palace.
factories would have this, and so there is actually a practical purpose.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that practical purpose was in the episode 1 hallway, but whatever. Just ones that really stood out for me. And I think
The episode 1 ship in the very beginning, the Separatist ship.
Oh, yeah. When it was coming in through the
was amazing.
atmosphere. Yeah.
But just all these things, again, were so
They're
subtle.
like, Trade Federation
Bingo.
ship or whatever.
Because
Separatist ship.
I don't want to put words in either of your mouths, but how stupid is the end of episode 1? Like how, specifically that, like, this is pod racing. Like, that's like one of the, one of the worst.
Don't worry about it.
One of the worst Star Wars moments that's so hard to get into. Even if you totally,
Zero stakes, dude.
even if you totally
He's
put
just having- he's
the
just goofing off.
shiniest Star Wars goggles on, it's like, this sucks, And
I love episode 1.
and I almost felt like
I love it.
I almost felt like that was the point.
Yeah.
That you see this thing. It's like, remember episode 1? It's
dead.
You see this giant thing. This is the wreckage.
Yeah.
The here's where we are. All of this is in the past. It's rusty. It's problematic. You miss it, but it's gone. It was. I have a lot of conflicting emotions about those prequels, and I felt this game just like hit a lot of those head on. So yeah, that was a big deal. Didn't notice it at all when I cut the review. Didn't see that ship at all when I saw that
really?
shot.
Oh,
And it wasn't
okay.
until I was playing the game, and I was like, oh yeah, they just started. Oh my god.
Yeah.
There it is. Episode 2, in general, the Clone Wars. Everything I talked about with the Clone Wars. There's a great moment, and of course, there's Clone Wars ships all over Kashyyyk, and there's all over the shipyard. And but specifically on Kashyyyk, there's one room that he goes into, and you see a bunch of battle droids, and he remembers like when the Clone Wars ended, and was like, "Oh yeah, that was a big fight." Because you go to Kashyyyk in Episode 3, which also was a reference, and you go there and keep going back to Kashyyyk. I think you go to Kashyyyk in the KOTOR.
It's
you go to
popular.
Kashyyyk in Force Unleashed.
It's a popular planet.
Enough.
Yeah,
but,
Enough.
Jedi Fallen Order 2, get out of there.
Like,
No.
Tatooine's coming, dude.
Those
Unlimited planets. Make a
those-
planet.
Those
they made
Wookiees,
some.
those Wookiees look weird a little bit.
Yeah.
The fur was a little strange.
Bold
Yeah, he
move
was
doing
talking about that.
Wookiees.
Bold choice.
I was like, whoa, we're doing this? We're doing Wookiees? With this hair detail?
with the tech,
So bold.
bold choice.
And obviously,
Rolling the dice, Respawn.
They believed in it.
Yeah. Like, we gotta get Wookiees.
Dude. Yeah.
Episode 3, all of the references to Order 66, of
Yeah.
course, just all of that ending. Obi-Wan, man, opening up. Oh, this is a holocron. Here's how it
holocron,
functions,
yeah.
and just opening it up, and like,
Dude.
I didn't want to
was
tell you
that
about
was
that
that
either.
Ewan or
about
was that John Taylor? Was that the
I think
guy?
it was Taylor. I don't think it's
Okay.
Ewan.
Yeah,
But Rebels, fun Rebels reference, very easy to pick up. Lasat, his master, is Garazeb's, or Zeb they call him, and on the Rebels crew, and that race was created for Rebels,
Nice.
and it was based on the original design of Chewbacca. He had like no nose, and he kind of had, he had like just that design. He was furrier, and so they like kind of evolved that for Rebels and set up this story of as an example of just the Empire's brutality, that like his whole planet gets like this race just gets wiped out, and so a lot of people when they see Zeb are like, "What the hell is this? They've never seen this race before." And so that just twists the
Jedi.
knife even more that his master dies. That we lost another one. Like these, they're not only destroying ecosystems. They're not only systematically wiping out the Jedi by Jedi. They're making these races extinct.
That's the first reference I've heard where I feel like that really helps the emotional weight of that moment. That's a really good one, Jones. I
Yeah.
like that. That's
Rogue One, Saw Gerrera being,
Yeah,
in,
of
of course,
course, yeah.
and the security droids. Their dialogue was so funny. It's just like you are continuing to attack me, unwise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Episode 4, there were a lot of different references. One thing that I think like is a stretch, but like you just do a lot of swinging. And I just saw A New Hope on Disney Plus like the other day. Amanda and I had never watched it together, so I'm like, here we go. We were cracking up the whole time because there's a lot of goofy stuff in that movie. But when Luke and Leia do the swing, I was
swing,
like,
yeah.
maybe. I'm sure it was more of a
Well, it made me think of
platforming
Empire
fun
too,
thing.
because he does that in Empire. He like uses the Force to grab the vine, I think, in Dagobah.
Oh,
Like,
sure.
swing-
Yeah,
pretty
lots of
pretty sure he does
swinging
it.
going on
Yeah.
in Star Wars. But I think the opening in the entire game, seeing the Star Destroyer come moving overhead.
total
And then it's like, remember episode 4? And
four.
then it's like chopped in half and falling apart. And, that was emotional. Again, just this vibe of like, you are in a post Star Wars universe. It's before everything, but you definitely get the sense of. I think that just this ship graveyard was such a stroke of genius, for them to to add that and realize.
There's all these relics of
I
the
think that's just a
past.
perfect example of what you were saying, Huber, about referencing without clunk, just like
you
beating
said
you
that
over
first,
the head.
and I agreed with you 100%, Jones.
The probe droids, those guys floating
yeah.
around from
Gonk
There's the
droids,
Gonk droid,
too.
yeah.
from episode 5, and the scout troopers from Return of the Jedi, the guys with the stormtroopers that have the little
those
scope.
guys.
A lot of guys. I think there's snow troopers from Empire and stuff there too.
Other random references, I'm just gonna like spitball these. At least we have the high ground. Yuck.
Yeah.
Feels like I'm being watched.
Feels like we're being watched.
The restraining bolt on BD1.
Yeah.
Which is such a going back and watching that, such a brilliant moment for R2. He's like, hey, I think I could finish playing that message if you take that restraining bolt off. And Luke's like, oh yeah, good call. And C-3PO's just an idiot. So he's like, boop, takes it off, and R2 stops the message. And he's just like, continue playing the message. And he's like, what message? And C-3PO's like, what message? R2 is such a sassy little guy. The droids in the prison when you rescue BD1. Master Yaddle mentioned. You pick up on that? Where Grease is like, yeah, what was that famous Jedi that had green pointy ears?
Yeah, I think they're gonna say Yoda.
And Sears like, oh, Master
yes,
Yoda.
Yoda.
And he's like, no, Yaddle. And she's like, yeah, Yaddle on the council? She's like, yeah. Yaddle's cool. And he's like, yeah, I always wanted to meet Yaddle.
for Yaddle. Yeah.
Yaddle was Dude, yeah, Yaddle was a pre-episode 1 thing. Yaddle was one of those, it's like just, like before episode 1 came out, dude, in like the 90s, like we're all just like scouring through everything.
Yeah,
we're seeing
give me
pictures of
info.
everybody on the council. And like the trailer comes out and we pause it and we're like, oh, cool, look at all these people. Who the hell? And it's just this like female Yoda that's like, looks
my
like a
God,
little
I
bit
remember.
older than
Okay,
Yoda.
Like
I
red
remember.
hair or something
And
like
then
that?
not in Clone Wars, not in
Yep.
episode 2 or 3, just
gone.
like, who knows? Who knows what happened to
Gone.
Yaddle? But I just love that one writer at Respawn's like, can we get Yaddle in there? Like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, as an aside on the ship,
right.
Jim. Okay,
Yeah.
all right, next. And just all the prequel Rex. But I like that they don't overdo common musical themes. And this is where like. There are 2 moments that hit me really hard. I actually remember before we got to Ilum, I was like, the music in this game is really good, and there are a lot of Star Wars games that I love, but they just like recycled like so much Star Wars music.
The theme over
and
over,
it's
like Dragon
great,
Quest.
but it's just like if you're gonna play like the the escape from the asteroid chase from Empire, it's like not only is that recognizable, I know like I'm hearing the dialogue, I know that, like I've seen this movie so many times that if you're like it's a weird kind of like a misfire because it's like I'm putting that in there to have an impact on Star Wars fans, but you're pulling me out of the moment at the same time, and I felt this game like was very careful with slipping back into common themes, even just kind of instruments and sounds they would put in that I'm like, yeah, that's the general Star Wars dread sound from episode 4, but you're not necessarily playing music from, the Death Star trash compactor or, but you're kind of calling upon that a little bit. I think there were at least 2 moments that stood out where they actually just really subtly brought in. I think they were both in the temples where they just like really subtly brought in the Star Wars theme. There was only one time in this game that I know of, correct me if I'm wrong in comments or reach out to me at Trailer Jones on Twitter, where they just straight up John Williams, boop, and that was Order 66. That was in that flashback where you were running through the base.
Most critical,
And like that was John Williams. That was the song that you hear when Kit Fisto goes down, when all of these when all of these characters, you see them all get wiped out.
Now that is a name I have not heard.
Long time. But I remember thinking when we got to Ilum, I was like, this game's good, but like I don't know if I'm gonna be humming any of this after I'm done with this. I don't know if there's anything that really stands out for me. And then we got our lightsaber working back again, and we're fleeing Ilum, and there's like Fallen Order theme, dude. Remember? I was like, yes, that's the Fallen Order theme. And like that had just such a great impact. That sequence was just so great. Like there were so, I was freaking out too because I didn't know we were gonna be able to change our color later. When they were like, "You moving the crystal," and they're like, "What color is it gonna be?" And I'm like, "Oh God, I think that's green. I
Took
think
me like
that's
10
green,
minutes.
right?" And then like even just that table right there, you can change it.
Yeah,
before you leave that.
They're
room
like, don't worry
outside.
about it. Don't sweat it.
Oh my God, Clone Wars. That room
The
with
Yoda thing.
the ice, the
Yeah.
wall, and
This
everything.
whole thing, yeah.
There is a very if we're saying a lot of stuff and you're like, God, Clone Wars, I gotta devour 6 seasons of this. There's one episode. That's like last season, I think.
I think it's like
It's pretty near the end.
It's like 5 episodes, season 5. And
There's
I think,
one
is it-
episode
is it
in
one or two?
particular where you go through the experience of what it's like for younglings to get their kyber crystal to experience
Dude, and the
that.
memories of like you're going through, and there's the memory of like that really reckless youngling.
Yeah.
And he gets like lost. I think he dies in there or something, or he just gets like lost.
I thought that was a reference to the episode. I think it was.
No, I don't think
something
it
else,
was.
yeah.
I think it was just a youngling.
Yeah.
But it's like,
But so there is an episode if you want to go back and like
Yeah.
that room with the ice wall. Like
oh
they're-
my God,
they're-
Jones. As soon as I got there, I
in
was
that
like,
room, and so it's
Jones
like,
is gonna be pleased.
Yeah, that was very very cool.
Nice.
The graphics, man, outfits blowing in the wind when they're inside. Like, oh geez, like there was a lot of the Marin when she comes aboard the ship. Her little hair was just like,
Yeah.
Marin, stop.
Stop it, bang. Yeah, it was the bang, dude. I was like, bold choice.
Bold choices.
I loved the intro music to this game whenever you boot it up. I love the reveal of the Respawn logo and the EA logo. The title screen lore. You know what I'm talking about? The ship blowing up and
yeah.
them escaping is staring you in the face
Yeah,
the entire
it's
time.
nuts.
And it didn't take me until like the 8th time I booted the game up that I was like, okay, here we go. I just about to hit continue. And I'm like, wait, what the hell am I looking at? That's like a big ship. And there's clearly like an episode 4 looking escape pod. Like, I wonder if we haven't seen that yet. And we have like, oh boy. But he knew, and he's meditating, and this is hanging over him the whole time. Respawn. I was a little bummed that you only fight aliens in the arena that you have also seen on the selected planets.
Yep.
You know, like
Yeah,
Thank you,
that,
Dan. I thought
that
the
would have been
same
a
thing.
really good opportunity to throw some crazy
Thought
aliens at us.
Rancor.
Exactly the same thing.
Rancor, dude. Save it up.
Yeah.
Rancor fight,
Why does
maybe.
Cal talk about the temple
one.
stuff
hold
when he
up,
knows
dude.
the
I want to bring
sister's
up
listening?
the total God of War 3 moment. I was like, oh yeah, Stig's working on this game.
The
bat,
ogres?
dude. When you're riding like the bat and you're like falling in the
Yes.
air, I was like, oh my god, this is God of War 3. Dude.
That was a little silly because you could keep coming back and trying it again.
But I was just like, this is God of War 3.
And the like weirdly incomprehensible killing animation for like the big ogre ones. You like cut its arm
And
off.
stab it in the stomach and it doesn't wound it.
It looks all weird. Every
yeah.
time it happened, I
You
was
mean
like,
because it like falls on its butt?
yeah, and it just like sometimes the lightsaber it looked like it was nowhere near it.
When you
So it's
open
like,
chests
what?
underwater, BD1 does not go into the chest, but it still shakes.
Yeah, Cal's talking.
Yeah, Cal's
just
like,
weird things like that.
Yeah.
Oops. But it made me think I gotta work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and just another just choice BD1 moment. Well, Jedi don't get to choose their crystal. The crystal chooses them. Boop, boop, boop. Yeah, BD1, just like you.
Yeah.
Aw,
So good, dude.
baby one.
So good.
Adorable.
And I never ever wore a poncho throughout the entire game.
I was changing stuff throughout the entire game.
Me too. I changed in Kashyyyk. I wore like the rainforest one.
Oh,
Had to have that one.
correction. on Ilum, they force you. To.
Yeah,
They put it on you.
But
and
you
I was
like
that
you
makes
liked
sense.
the non poncho outfit.
Well, it's just anything that flowed did
I
not
like
work
the one
graphically
with
in
the
this
two
game.
white lines,
Sure,
the
yeah.
too big, and then for the final battle, no poncho. Jacket
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Taking the poncho off for the whole final section.
Well, I put myself in the I think it's like outlaw or something in the dark
Yeah,
outfit,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
put him in made BD1 dark.
Yeah.
serious business.
But oh boy, there'll go an hour of talking about Jedi.
I just
Fallen
want
Order.
to talk about a few things that I want
Sure.
to see them do with this next game.
an excellent
Especially
way to wrap
because
it
it's
up.
going to be next gen probably. So we got a slight tease of it with. So obviously you have your lightsaber and you get the double sided one. Then you get where you could break them in half.
Yeah.
I'm like, they could easily just make that another direction on your direction pad.
Sure.
So they're gonna start turning this like more. It reminded me of like not necessarily on the complexity level, but of like a Devil May Cry. You have different weapons where you
Totally.
get a few different abilities. Like your double sided one was better for like cleaving multiple guys or something like that, and your single one's better for strength. Like they could turn that into something where like your playstyle could change even more with that. I desperately want a mechanic in the next one where you can get your lightsaber knocked out of your hand, or someone else, you can knock it out of someone else's hand, and you could like force grab it back, or you could like take it. Yeah, I desperately want something like that.
A perfect parry.
Yes,
there's
something
parry and
crazy.
like perfect parry or
Yeah.
something.
And
Parry it out.
I really
Or
want
like the red, when they do a red state, when they're gonna do an unblockable attack, they like turn blue or something. And
Sure.
It's like, go. And you have like a second to
yeah,
do it, you know.
or like if you get like
well, you can pull the heart out of the
yeah, there's like a few things
those
like
guys.
that, but I'm actually talking about your lightsaber
Yeah,
getting
yeah,
hit
yeah.
out of your hand. You're like, oh shit, like I gotta get it back or something like that. In a spaceship, because we never go in like a spaceship throughout this entire game. Like I want a section where you're like on a Star Destroyer,
Yeah.
and like something blows open and stuff's getting sucked out into space, and you're like going through all this crazy shit. But it's like this is all stuff they could have saved for the sequel, and they probably did.
But we run in with abilities and the skill tree and stuff like that. We run into the classic Metroid issue of like he's gonna get injured, he's gonna lose his force powers and have to relearn all of them again.
You might not lose them.
Right. That would be interesting if he keeps most of them, because when we get into what Jedis can do, and we had a lot of fun with combat, but the story was really fascinating. It'd be fun to do a little mind manipulation. It'd be fun to like read people's thoughts.
Yeah.
You know, to be like go into a room and you can see stormtroopers down there, and you could like that guy. And
Yeah, you
just,
could
like,
read their mind or something.
and have him be like, oh, I'm really scared because that monster came. And you're like, what? Oh, okay. Or it'd be great. On the other side, somebody on the other side of a door or something like that doesn't see you. You can go up and just, and he's just like,
Yeah,
hey,
sneak up
we
on
should
him.
open that door. And there's like, wait, what are you talking about? I'm gonna go open this door. Like, what are you doing, dude? And just, you come running in and like take him out. So there's
would love that.
definitely
A lot of things they could do.
things that aren't necessarily involving combat that you can do.
Yeah, I
because
wanted a giant city planet.
You want like a huge hub or
I
something.
wanted a city
to go
planet
back
with,
to.
with like no combat or minimal combat, more dialogue stuff.
yeah,
Dude, they're just gonna do Mos Eisley.
Yeah, give me like Mos Eisley, like talking to people,
Like you
Just
get you
more-
kind of like want someone to give you like a job or a quest.
Yeah,
Go set up to that planet.
yeah.
potentially playing as Seer.
Yeah.
Oh,
Now that she's kind of a little more in touch with
and the
what's
title,
going on, and
the title Jones is such a giveaway because it's Star Wars Jedi : Fallen Order. So
oh
there's
sure, Jedi, go nuts.
There's got to be Star Wars Sith :
Yeah, they could totally do
Like,
that.
let's have a Sith game and really tap into what it is to be a Sith.
Like, I'm sure Sierra will turn to the dark side at a point. I think it's going to happen. 'Cause she's already struggling with it, and you'll have to take her down, dude. It's like, she could be a villain in the next game.
That would be, dude, no, please no.
I just want a BD1 Switch game.
That'd be sad.
I just want a game where you're just BD1 running around.
That'd be awesome.
Do we think DLC first because they haven't announced any, or just straight to the
Good
next one?
question.
Any DLC for
I thought
this
they
game?
could have done
Is
DLC.
Respawn known for DLC? Did Titanfall get any story stuff?
I don't
Did
think
they?
so.
Yeah.
No.
I don't know.
Just on to
I
the
don't know if
next.
There's a precedent for that. Also, do we see? I forget his name, but do we see? We know, he's not around anymore. But do we actually know or see what happens to? This,
The Jedi you're chasing.
this ghost was.
I don't remember,
Formerly
Jones.
owned. The formerly owned BD1. That
Yeah,
that
I
left
can't
all of these
remember,
things.
dude. That's a good question.
And just that, we haven't talked about him, but just kind of that was really neat that he was there, but not. That you were kind of
He was just
following,
he's
following the
chasing
steps of
throughout that
BD1,
game.
seeing these places, which I think helped the gameness that you were talking about. I
Yeah.
think that kind of countered it a little bit.
Totally.
Where you would finally get into these areas and have him be like, I was here a long time ago. It's a big deal that you're here now. Of Seer calling you and being like, what's it like in there? Like I can't go where you went because I don't have the powers that you do.
What do you guys think about the Zepho?
Oh, just in general, yeah.
Just in general.
Oh, I loved the Zepho,
Zepho.
flashback dude. The tall Zepho guy who was talking with the dreads. You finally got to see them. The
Predator
you see
dude.
statues,
Yeah.
you see their
Yeah.
skulls on the ground, they did just a lot of great environmental storytelling. A
Good
lot
story of that.
It just wasn't like filler. I loved how
Yeah.
all of it was numerical. So you could tell
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like in a row, the story that you were building. So you're like, ooh, I haven't
Yeah.
gotten 5 yet. There's
Yeah.
a little piece missing. I think that really helps because a lot of time you're collecting so much stuff that you just don't know what's relevant over another. And I think that actually worked for this game because if you hear, on Zepho that some family died or the things that are mirroring what happened to Trilla, what happened to Seer, what happened to Cal. You can't tell right away what's going to matter the most. It all matters, and there wasn't too much of it. That was one of Kyle's big questions. We talked about a frame trap. He's like, okay, I'm going into these areas and unlocking things. Is it worth it? It's like, it almost always was. It almost always was, even just like clicking someone. Oh, there's one Empire person. I was like, man, I feel sorry for that person. But it was in the ice caverns underneath Zepho where that big troll breaks out when you fight him. And then you go into that room and there was this lady, you could just hear
Yeah.
and it was her dying of starvation. She got
Yeah.
trapped in there and died. It's like, oh, bummer. Like all of these,
brutal.
dark. If you can go to these farthest reaches of these areas and discover things only Jedi, or like animals can find that can reach these spots, what are these crazy secrets and
Star
crazy
Wars.
stories waiting to be told?
Star Wars smuggler : Brandon Jones's dream.
Or just adding smugglers to your having people come and go, giving the player the option to decide who goes with you.
Oh, sure. like
Having
assembling your
characters
crew.
be like, hey, I wouldn't mind going with you. You're like,
See,
no,
but
stay here.
Here's where it gets so sticky, Jones, is because I was talking about the balance between the focus and how linear this game is and how the levels are constructed. If we start going all these open worlds and RPG elements and recruiting, and I'm worried that
Too broad.
it gets too broad.
Yep.
There are so many things I wanted out of Fallen Order. I wanted a little more RPG stuff. I wanted a little more control of my ship. I wanted, more, let me put things on the walls. I wanted more RPG stuff, but it was so tight and focused that. So
And
it's like,
I mentioned before, episodes 3 to 4, you got a couple decades there, but I just always kind of get not hyped whenever people set stuff there because it's it's so obvious.
we have so much
it's such
stuff
a
there
clear,
already.
you're just like, oh, there's so many, ways that we could go, and we don't have to do 3 characters because they all left. We don't have to do 4 characters because they're not of age yet. Obviously, Luke can't be a part of it. Leia can't be a part of it. Han can't be a part of it. Chewie can't be a part of it.
Hopefully, after episode 9, more creators out there can set their stories post Skywalker saga and do whatever the hell they want because it's uncharted. Yeah, because it's uncharted territory, Every story feels like it either has to be the Old Republic or
don't
tied to
start
the
it, yeah.
Skywalker
That's
Saga.
one of the
There
reasons-
was a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
but it got axed.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Legends now.
filler,
Yeah.
Well,
filler.
that was always, why I wasn't like super crazy into KOTOR. Like, there are a lot of things I really love about KOTOR, but it's like they're like, this takes place hundreds of years. I'm like, oh, here we go. And the first droid I bump into is like R2. I'm like, what? In the hundreds of years they didn't.
It looks exactly the same.
Yeah, it's like there is like a sameness, and it would be fun if they decide to end Cal's story, if they do 2, 3, 4 games and then wrap it up, because they're like, we're done. There's only so much we can do with these characters, to then go like hundreds of years back. Kind of what allegedly the Game of Thrones writers were going to do. They were going to start something about the beginning
Long
of the
night.
Jedi Order. If we've
that.
seen how it all ends at least once, we've seen multiple times of it
beginning
ending
of
in
it.
war. But here's here were the first Jedi, and here's all the stuff that they had to deal with. There's some
Bane.
crazy, just the Inquisitors is cool, and it doesn't feel like it steps out of place. The those rifle guys with the electric bombs.
Oh, yeah, the
hate
Purge
those
Troopers?
guys. Hate those guys,
Yeah.
man. Well, probably my least
they're
favorite
awesome.
of the, but they're not the Purge Troopers.
Yeah.
Like, just all of
gun
that
type.
kind of seemed to make sense, and seem that it makes sense we haven't been introduced to these characters. So,
Yeah.
kudos, Respawn.
Kudos,
for,
Respawn.
for putting as much stuff in there. Yeah.
Dude. Shout out to Respawn.
Really great. Opening your whole game with like some crazy Jabba's Palace rock song.
Jones.
When the ship comes through
I have
that
one-
window and crashes in and rescues you. Like,
One last question for you. I feel like they de-hyped this game. That they were in a we'll let Jedi Fallen Order do the talking.
Uh-huh.
Did you feel the same way?
What,
Do you
EA or Respawn?
kind of both. It just felt like they kind of showed a little bit of the game. Like, here it is. I thought just maybe it's just because of the state of Star Wars and how everyone's kind of feeling about Star Wars now. But I feel like I don't feel alone when I say, like, it feels like we kind of just walked into this game with like minimal expectations. And it kind of feels like that's by design, where they were like, yo, there's so much baggage about Star Wars. Let's just keep our head down, make this game and release it.
The way I imagine it is like you're a surfer and you're out and like the biggest damn wave comes along and you see a surfer over there and you see on your right and you see a surfer on your left. The surfer on your right's episode 9.
Yeah.
The surfer on your left is the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And you're just like, let's go. You're like, I don't know, this wave's gonna whether I crash and burn, whether I literally fall off my surfboard right away, I'm gonna eat sand at some point because the wave is just gonna push everything. So I think EA was like, let's not talk about it too much. Let's not, certainly not spoil things. It was nice to I was nervous going into cutting that review because I was like, you said you were like, it'd be nice if you didn't show the double-edged saber, but you can if you want, and and it was tough because you can actually see the saber longer a little bit in some of those clips, but you never see him actually like whip it out. Because I
didn't put it in.
think and that's why I'm so excited to do the spoiler mode because it was so surprising. And so I agree with you, but I'm grateful. I'm grateful that BD1 seemed like just, your classic comic relief, but then was so much more poignant than I, felt that, going through these worlds and discovering all these secrets stayed with me so much more than I was expecting.
I think that's the whole game, is just defied our expectations.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, another EA Star Wars game, dude. Sick.
But now our expectations
I'm like,
are
yeah.
through the roof for
Yeah,
this next
Respawn.
one. And it's going to be fascinating to see how long it takes them. It's going to be fascinating to see how they communicate that in the build-up, especially since, Respawn's not a one-game developer.
No.
They have a lot of pots burning right now. And so it's going to be interesting to see what, that this... Imagine, it's also fascinating too to work at Respawn and realize like you are now at the forefront of Star Wars gaming. You are now
You're the leader
You
now.
have set so many things right that have made people sad over the years. Canceled games, failed games, microtransactions, bugs, like just the fallout that I think is still kind of present. We've talked about more than once of Disney taking it over and being like, yeah, all this extra. You get Thrawn. I'll give you Thrawn. But like Dash Rendar, gone. Who's the Jedi Knight?
Thrawn,
Hello.
dude,
Who's
still
the
canon.
protagonist of
Ahsoka?
Outcast? And everything? No.
Oh, Kyle Katarn.
Yeah, Kyle Katarn, gone. It's like all these people are just like legends. It's like, yeah, you can read your silly stories, but they're not a part of canon anymore.
Yet.
And having this, I am proud to call this Star Wars canon.
Yeah, it's
but it
great.
doesn't pull. It wasn't like a Force Unleashed thing where it's like Vader had an apprentice. You're like, explain yourself. Like it made
secret apprentice.
It made sense. Cal's included in all this world, but is still very much excluded from a lot of stuff that's going on. I definitely still get a sense of loneliness, especially just chopping that holocron in half. He's like, it's just us, folks.
Yep.
Here we go. Stay tuned on the Xbox Scarlet and the PlayStation 5 and PC, coming to you in 4 years.
Maybe DLC before then,
The
hopefully.
continuation of the story. Thanks so much, Brad. Excellent review, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Huber, for not having it not just be Brad and I going back and forth and back and
Just
forth
yelling
about
about
this.
Star Wars.
And thank you for hanging out and being a patron of patreon.com/easyallies. We greatly appreciate it. May the Force be with you.
Okay, let's try this again. Oh, okay. Here, hop on board.